All right, people. So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our current affairs lecture series. Now, today we are going to discuss geography and environment related current affairs. Now, if you have been following this lecture series for quite some time, you know this that we cover 1 week's current affairs in one lecture, and that particular week is related to one particular subject. So, every lecture we cover one subject's 1 week related current affairs. Now, today is the turn for geography and environment. So, all the important news items with respect to geography and environment that occurred in the past 1 week shall be discussed in today's lecture. Now, needless to say this, but I'm still going to say this, that make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. It is really important. If you'll maintain this routine till your examination, well, as far as current affairs are concerned, you need not worry about them. Okay, so develop this good habit. Okay, then, enough of the introduction. Let's straight away dive into today's lecture. So, let's begin. So, current affairs, geography, environment, June part 5, and here are the topics that we are going to discuss. Number one topic is related to a particular species whose numbers are dwindling, and that is white rumped vulture. Now, the numbers are going down, it is currently critically endangered, and there are various reasons behind their declining numbers. So, we'll investigate this entire matter. Then we'll talk about, well, the Indian monsoon. Well, in the last 146 years, this year was the most deficient when it comes to monsoon in the month of June. Okay, so 146 year June monsoon deficit anomaly. So what are the reasons behind this? Though we have discussed this particular topic in our previous lecture also, but let's revise it again. Okay. And the last topic is related to India and Seychelles Ocean of Opportunity. Well, India and Seychelles, the Indian Ocean island nation, well, they signed an agreement called the Ocean of Opportunity. But the thing is, the reason why we are discussing this is because Seychelles offers geostrategic advantage to India. Especially in times where India has realized that Strait of Hormuz can be vulnerable, well, we are searching for alternative routes. Seychelles can be a partner in this area, and Seychelles also offers various geostrategic advantages. So we'll talk about this entire thing. Okay, so these are the three news items that we shall zero in our attention on. So let's start discussing them one by one. Starting with topic number one, and that is white rumped vulture. Now you see, well, in the 1980s, or at least till 1980s, this particular vulture was the most abundant vulture in the entire South Asia and Southeast Asia. But after 1980s and 90s, well, the numbers declined. In fact, it became nearly extinct from India. Now, India decided to reintroduce this particular bird, vulture, into the wild by breeding it in captive, okay, in zoos, breeding it and then releasing it into the wild. Now, recently, the wild birds that were released, well, they met with an accident. They crash landed into an electrical pole and they were electrocuted. So this was a big loss for conservation efforts that India was undertaking to increase the numbers of this bird. Now, this was in the news. This was the news. But what we should focus, as far as this particular species is concerned, what we should focus is, what is the species? Okay, what are the threats faced by this species? Why is its population declining? And what can we do? What India can do to increase its numbers? Okay, this is something that you need to know as a UPSC aspirant. So let's investigate this. All right. So white rumped vulture, the technical name for it is Gyps bengalensis. Okay. Now remember, vultures, eagles, they are birds of prey. Okay, and they basically do a cleanup job. They are cleaners for the earth because they eat or they prey on dead animals or dead carcasses. So they help in decomposing the dead animals who are laying there in the wild. Okay, so they perform an important role. Now, what was in the news? So white rumped vulture, historically recognized as the most abundant large bird of prey in the world during early 1980s, suffered an unprecedented catastrophic population crash. 9.7% of its numbers declined between 1993 to 2002. Okay, and there is one particular reason for this. In mid 2026, the first ever reintroduction attempt of captive bred radio tagged in South India met a severe setback because this bird crash landed into a transmission line at Madumalai Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. Okay, now this is this bird, white rumped vulture. Okay, Now, about this bird, the profile of this bird, it is a scavenger species. That means its main job is to clean up the earth from dead animals. Okay. A medium-sized old world vulture native to South and Southeast Asia. South Asia, well, India, SAARC nations, and Southeast Asia, that means ASEAN countries, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, all these areas. It thrives across Gangetic plains, central valleys, semi-arid zones of India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, localized parts of Southeast Asia. Now, how does it look? Well, I've shared this picture also in your notes, but, well, you don't need to know how it looks. You just, I mean, no question would be asked as far as its looks are concerned. But let's talk about other things. An obligate colonial scavenger, that means it can lay its eggs in other birds' nests. That nests high in mature canopy trees, very high trees. Okay, Arjuna tree, neem tree, banyan tree. It relies entirely on thermal updrafts. So during summer months when the hot air rises, well, this particular vulture uses that upward momentum of that hot air to rise upwards. Okay, thermal updrafts to glide at high altitudes and locate livestock carcasses. As soon as it reaches high altitude, then it can scan the entire nearby ground to search for carcasses, dead animals. Okay, now you see, remember this point, it was one of the most abundant bird, but between 1993 and 2002, in a matter of 9 years, its numbers declined by 99.7%. That means 99% of these birds became, they vanished from the face of the earth. And that there is only one reason for that. And that reason is NSAID medicines. Okay, you must have heard about these medicines, diclofenac and others. Okay, there is a particular category of medicines that are anti-inflammatory. Okay, they are used for fever, pain relief medicines. Okay, so there is a particular category of medicines called NSAIDs. NSAID stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay, so diclofenac is one example. It is used for curing infections, pain relief, also used as painkillers, also bringing down fever. And diclofenac was mostly used for livestock, animals. People who perform animal rearing, well, when their animals were diseased with something, they used to give them diclofenac. Now, the problem with diclofenac is this diclofenac stayed in their bodies. When these animals died and these vultures fed on them, this diclofenac entered their system and it wreaked havoc in their system. Diclofenac medicines or NSAIDs, well, even in very small proportions, they are lethal for these birds. So what happened? This is the entire chain. Vulture eats carcasses with NSAID residues. Okay, these NSAIDs, when they enter the body of these vultures, they inhibit their uric acid excretion. So their excretory system gets damaged. That leads to renal failure or kidney failure. And after kidney failure, they used to die of gout, death. Okay, this medicine is so lethal that you can imagine in a matter of 9 years, 99% of the population of these birds, well, they vanished. Okay, and NSAIDs became popular among livestock during this time only, late 1980s and 90s. In fact, it is said, research reveals that even if less than 1% of livestock carcasses available to wild vultures contain lethal dose of diclofenac, not all animals, only 1% of animals, it is mathematically sufficient to cause 60 to 90% drop in birds population. Just 1% of animals, livestock has this drug, well, can lead to decline of up to 90% of this vulture's population. It is that dangerous. Okay, now here's the table. Because diclofenac was found to be responsible for decline in the numbers of vultures, well, this diclofenac was banned. Then later many alternatives came, alternative NSAIDs came. They were also dangerous, they were also banned. Only one particular category of NSAIDs are non-lethal, they are allowed. So diclofenac, this is extremely lethal, it was banned in 2006. Then aclofenac, that was the replacement. It is also lethal, it was also banned. Then ketoprofen and nimesulide, this is also lethal, it was also banned. Only this is allowed. Tolefenamic acid, meloxicam. They are considered safe. They are approved by Indian Council of Agricultural Research and they are found to be vulture friendly. They are veterinary painkillers. So if your animals are suffering from pain, farmers can give this to them. And when vultures would feed on them, they won't be, it won't cause renal failure. So this is only allowed, but still there is enough black market for diclofenac because diclofenac works really fast and it's very effective. Okay, so through black market, many dairy farmers, poultry farmers purchase this medicine and feed it to their animals. They are not worried about vultures. Okay, now this has led to a severe ecological crisis. If vultures decline, this can cause other problems as well. Okay, the removal of millions of apex avian scavengers from Indian ecosystem has triggered major socio-economic public health crisis. First of all, because these vultures used to feed on dead animal carcasses, now these dead animal carcasses remain up to weeks and they are fed by some feral dogs and rats. Okay, so their population has increased. Now, because these feral dogs and rats also carry rabies, so if their population increases, these rabies infected dogs and rats, well, this would lead to rabies epidemic in India and rise in dog population and dog bite cases. And well, we all know that it's a sensitive issue, right? Plus, if these dead animals are not neutralized or decomposed on time, well, they carry a lot of diseases. Those diseases can, well, spread out in the open. For example, anthrax, brucellosis, foot and mouth disease that basically affects cattle. Well, they have become pretty common because dead animals are not decomposed quickly. Now, this is leading to losses to many dairy farmers also because their animals are suffering from diseases, even humans are suffering from diseases. So it's a public health crisis and major economic crisis for people whose incomes are dependent on animal rearing. Okay, so this is there. Now, as far as the institutional architecture is concerned, well, these vultures are classified as critically endangered in IUCN, Schedule 1 in Wildlife Protection Act and Appendix 1 in CITES. Okay, so they are, as far as the governments are concerned, they consider these vultures to be a priority to protect them, conserve them. Then India launched action plan for vulture conservation. So they created vulture conservation breeding centers, okay, also known as Jatayu centers. Then vulture safe zones. So, well, if there is an area where you find these vulture nesting sites, 100-kilometer radius across these sites would be made diclofenac free. Diclofenac would be completely banned from this area. Okay. Plus, there are many other things that you can do. So, well, this is the way forward. Right? That would be all. Now, let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, which we discussed previously also. 146-year June monsoon deficit anomaly. In our previous geography environment lecture also, we talked about this, that Indian monsoon or the monsoon this time around is pretty deficient as far as the rainfall is concerned. Okay. And June has turned out to be the lowest rainfall month in the last 146 years of Indian subcontinent's history. Okay. Now, in the previous lecture also, we talked about the reasons behind this phenomena. We are going to repeat those reasons only because those are the only 5 reasons that have caused this problem. Okay. So it is more or less a repeat of a topic that was discussed in the previous lecture, but there is no harm in revising it again, discussing it again. So we'll quickly discuss this. Okay. So let's begin. So 146-year June monsoon deficit anomaly. So following a slightly delayed onset over Kerala, southwest monsoon suffered a massive 2-week structural break in monsoon across the subcontinent. By the end of June, official data by IMD confirmed that the nation received only 99.5 millimeters of rainfall. Generally, June receives around 165.3 millimeters of rainfall, but it was significantly less. So this is a cause for worry. This left a staggering 40% countrywide rainfall deficit, officially locking in the month as one of the top 5 driest Junes in the last 146 years. Okay? The driest June in the last 146 years. Now, in the previous lecture also we talked about this. The reason why rainfall is a bit scanty this year is because of 5 reasons. There are 5 geographical phenomena that have a significant impact on monsoon winds. Okay. Now, what are those 5 phenomena? The rare 5 system synchronization. There are 5 things that impact monsoons, and all 5 of them are, well, not working out for abundance of monsoon, so to speak. Okay, so number 1 is Madden-Julian oscillation. When it is in its upward phase, monsoon is abundant. When it is in its downward phase, monsoon is deficient. It is currently in its downward phase. This Madden-Julian oscillation is a phenomena found in the Indian Ocean. Okay. Then there is Indian Ocean dipole also. This was also weak. This led to, well, the clouds that formed over the Bay of Bengal or the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean. Well, these clouds stayed over there because of weak Indian Ocean dipole. If the Indian Ocean dipole is strong, these clouds are pulled from the Indian Ocean towards the Indian landmass. But that pull was not strong because Indian Ocean dipole was weak. Then Somali jet stream, we have talked about this jet stream, equatorial jet stream that pushes the rain-bearing clouds from the Arabian Sea into the Indian landmass. Well, this was also weak. Then zero low pressure systems. Low pressure systems actually increase the pull. Okay, so if there is very severe low pressure system on the Indian landmass, then the monsoon rain bearing winds from the Indian Ocean, they are sucked into the Indian landmass and cause rainfall. That was also weak. And well, West Asian atmospheric lid, this is another phenomena which we'll discuss in our geography lectures because it is a detailed 30 minutes video to explain this West Asian atmospheric lid. Nonetheless, it is related to the heat in this area, West Asian area. But just remember this, once we'll cover geography lectures, well, you'll understand all 5 concepts. Okay, just remember for them now. If you have already studied geography, you know about this. If you haven't, just be a little patient. Just remember the names of these phenomena for now. Okay, now this is a table, regional division of rainfall. So in central India, there was 50% deficiency, northeast it was 40%, northwest 31%, southern 27%. Okay, and well, the 4th column talks about the threat. Okay, what will happen if this phenomena continues? Why rainfall is important in these areas? Now, socio-economic fallout. If this trend continues, if the rainfall doesn't get back to normal, well, we are going to face severe socio-economic problems. Now, what are those? Number 1, kharif compression and food inflation risk. Okay, because most of Indian farmers follow rain-fed agriculture. They depend on monsoon rainfall for their irrigation. They won't sow that many crops because of rain deficiency, and there would be shortage of food supply. Yields would fall down, food yields, crop yields. Food supply would come down wherever there is high demand but short supply, food inflation occurs. This is not good for the Indian economy. Okay. Then reservoir depletion cycles. Most of the reservoirs of various dams, hydroelectric power projects depend on monsoon rainfall to fill up these reservoirs. As per Central Water Commission, major national water reservoirs held 25% less water capacity. Now these reservoirs provide irrigation, drinking water, hydroelectric power, electricity. And if these reservoirs are not going to produce enough electricity, well, we are going to fulfill or compensate that with this shortage of electricity with thermal power plants, which release more greenhouse gases. Okay, and the third threat is global warming, because it is said that with every 1 degree Celsius rise in atmospheric temperature, the capacity of the atmosphere to hold that moisture grows by 7%. Now, if India is getting warm, its capacity to hold more moisture will also increase. That is really bad news, because if your atmosphere's capacity of holding moisture is less, then only rainfall occurs, condensation occurs. But if it has a lot of capacity to hold moisture without causing rainfall, then that would be really stressful. Rain won't occur, but there will be high humidity. This is a problem. Okay. Now, what policy safeguards can we go for? We can go for micro level agricultural contingency emergency plans. We can do research and development in Krishi Vigyan Kendras as to how to distribute drought resistant, drought resilient seeds to farmers. Okay, those seeds which do not depend on that much water. Then decoupling farm power via PM Kusum. So currently farmers extract groundwater using, well, electric pumps. Now government wants to distribute solar pumps so that farmers are not dependent on electricity. They use solar energy to extract groundwater. This will save the much needed electricity and reduce their dependence on electricity, okay? Upgrading to multi-scale predictive modeling. This is for Indian Meteorological Department. They can use AI, generative AI, to predict localized rainfall in a better way so that they can generate hyper-local weather forecasts. That can be really useful for farmers. So this is the way forward. Clear? Make sense? Okay. Now let's quickly shift our focus to next news item, and that is India and Seychelles, the ocean of opportunity. Now you see, in the Indian Ocean region, India considers Indian Ocean to be its own backyard. But this Indian Ocean region, well, India faces a lot of threats. Number one, well, China is constructing naval infrastructure in all the countries surrounding India in the Indian Ocean region. This strategy of theirs is known as string of pearl strategy, to surround India with military naval infrastructure. Okay. Plus, India is also searching for alternative routes in the Indian Ocean region because it knows that it cannot fully rely on the Red Sea, Suez Canal, Strait of Hormuz route. Why? Because this West Asian region is pretty restive. There are wars, continuous wars. Someday or the other in future, another conflict would happen and another route would be blocked. Maybe the Red Sea route would be blocked, the Suez Canal route would be blocked, Persian Gulf route would be blocked. You don't know. So India needs to search for alternative sea routes. Now, one good sea route is going around Africa. So if India wants to trade with Europe, well, a ship would go from Europe, clear Africa, okay, surrounding Africa, across South Africa, and then move towards India. Clear? I'll show it on the map. Now, in that region, there is an important country which India needs to partner with, and that is Seychelles. Now, recently, Prime Minister Modi signed an agreement with Seychelles, building upon this strategic partnership with Seychelles. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Basically, we'll focus on the strategic importance of Seychelles. And mind you, it is really important for you to know the location of Seychelles on a map, because map-based questions are asked. Okay, so let's begin. So, India and the Seychelles Ocean of Opportunity. So, during an official 3-day visit to Victoria, the Prime Minister and the President of Seychelles co-launched a comprehensive bilateral roadmap to turn the Western Indian Ocean region into an ocean of opportunity. Okay, so they signed this agreement, Ocean of Opportunity. We'll talk about this agreement, don't worry. To protect this crucial partner from West Asian maritime shocks, India extended an umbrella line of credit loans worth rupees 1,250 crores so that Seychelles can build infrastructure on many of its islands. This financial package was supported by the immediate deployment of fast patrol vessels, emergency humanitarian rice supplies, and deep water digital connection areas. We are supporting them to build better infrastructure. Remember, Seychelles is an island nation in the Indian Ocean region. So take a look at this map. Okay, so this is Africa. Okay, this is Madagascar. This is Mozambique. This particular area is Seychelles. This is India. Now, currently, India depends on this Red Sea route, Strait of Hormuz route for trade with Europe. If European ships want to come by avoiding this Strait of Hormuz route, then they have to cross the entire Africa from the Cape of Good Hope. This is Cape of Good Hope route, and then come to India through this. This particular region is known as the Mozambique Channel. So Seychelles is an important, its location is really important. It is close to Cape of Good Hope. It is close to Mozambique Channel. Okay, it lies in the strategic Indian Ocean, Western Indian Ocean region. It is close to Africa. So because of its strategic location, it has offered India various geostrategic advantages. For example, sea lanes of communication. It lies at a very crucial location, close to Mozambique Channel, Cape of Good Hope. Counter encirclement anchor, because China is building military facilities, naval facilities around India, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So it is surrounding India. We need to counter it with other partners. And Seychelles is basically a group of islands, like Maldives. One island is known as the Assumption Island. Well, it requires a serious infrastructure upgrade because that island lies at a very crucial location, which can be used for surveillance by India. Is there any malicious Chinese activity in this region? So for surveillance and all, we need better infrastructure on Assumption Island. So India has given loans for that as well. Okay. Now, as far as Seychelles is concerned, there are certain geographical facts about Seychelles that you need to know. Okay. And you also need to know about this agreement between India and Seychelles, the oceans of opportunity. So it has 4 pillars. One is maritime defense, digital connectivity, climate resilience, because these island nations are really scared. Because of rising sea level, island nations like Maldives, Mauritius, they feel that one day they will be submerged underwater. So they need climate resilience, okay? And capacity building, infrastructure building. So India has basically done these things for that in these areas, and the impact would be the third column. Okay, so these are the first column is the 4 pillars. The second column is what India has promised. And the last column is about the advantages for both nations. Okay, so do take a look at this table. This is shared in your notes. Very important for mains answer writing as well. Now, strategic challenges in Indian Ocean region. So Indian Ocean region suffers from these 3 major challenges. Number 1 challenge is overfishing by deep sea trawlers. These deep sea trawlers that fish in deep sea oceans, well, they are accused of overfishing, and because they are deep sea trawlers, they also destroy the biodiversity of that region. So this is a problem. Then climate change, atoll vulnerability. Atoll is a coral reef island. So climate change, rising sea level, these islands are getting submerged. The countries are getting submerged, okay? And third is, well, most of these island countries are taking their entire marine infrastructure digital, the management of their marine infrastructure online. Now, in online spaces, they are vulnerable to cyber attacks. India is building infrastructure in Seychelles. That infrastructure will be managed digitally. If tomorrow India wants to harm Seychelles, and if tomorrow China wants to harm India and Seychelles, they can hack this system and, well, destroy this infrastructure. So this is again a vulnerability. Make sense? Right? Now, what is the way forward? That is also given in your notes. Very simple way forward that India and Seychelles both can follow to solve these challenges. That's about it. Clear? All right then. With that, we conclude today's session. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. Now, it will add more value if you follow these 2 things. Number 1, make this lecture series a part of your daily routine, a daily habit of yours till your exams. It will serve you really well. You'll realize the benefits of this lecture series when you are closer to your exams. You'll surely thank me. Okay, so make it a daily habit. And number 2, well, just watching this lecture would be job half done, because you need to remember these current affairs at least till your exams. But if you'll just watch this lecture, you'll forget them in a couple of days. So to solidify these current affairs in your memory, you have to revise them from the notes provided by us. Now, these notes are shared on our Telegram channel, and the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. So do check that out. Okay then. On that note, I shall take your leave with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.